Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Mind Your Exam. We are continuing with the back exercise questions of chapter 6 from your NCERT class 11th book Computer Science with Python, and we are starting with the programming questions today. The first question of the programming with Python in the back exercise of chapter 6 is: write a program that takes the name and age of the user as input and displays a message whether the user is eligible to apply for a driving license or not. And what is the condition of eligibility? 18 years of age. So what are the steps that you need to perform in your program? Firstly, you have to take the name as well as the age of the user as input. Now, since name is a string, so you do not need to you do not need to perform any kind of type conversion. However, since the input function of the Python programming language by default converts the user input into a string, so when you take the age of the user as the input, you will have to perform type conversion into the int data type. Now once you have the age, you'll have to inform the user you'll have to inform the user that depending upon whether the age is greater than 18 or not, greater than equal to 18 or not, you have to display a message that the user is eligible to apply for the driving license or not. Okay, so here I have taken two variables, name and age. In the name, I have used the input taken from the user. I have displayed the string enter your name. This will be displayed on the screen, and since it is the input function, so a cursor would be blinking when the user executes the program. So let me execute this program for you. So when you execute this program, you see the string enter your name. So suppose I enter my name as Amit, then I press enter. Then it asks for the second input because of this particular statement. In this input, it is asking for the age. So I enter the age, or the user would enter the age, and since I have performed type conversion here into the int data type, this particular user input will not be considered as a string. It will be considered as the integer data type. So now when I press enter, it will check whether the value stored in the age variable is greater than or it is equal to 18 or not. And if the condition is true, the first print statement would be displayed. Now see, as of now, or if you see the question, there is nothing wrong in this program till now, but since you have also taken the name of the user as an input, in the print statement you must use this variable to address the user and then inform him that you are not eligible for applying for the driving license. So the print statement should be something like name, comma, and space, or or you can put a comma here and then you can display. So if I do the same procedure again and see, so now in the statement that is being displayed, I am referring to the name of the user that has been taken as the input, and then I am informing that Amit, you are eligible to apply for driving license. But if the age is not greater than or equal, then I have to inform greater than or equal to 18. Then I also have to inform the user that he or she is not eligible, right? So in that case also, I have to do the same procedure. I have to print a statement informing the user that your age is less than 18, so that is why you cannot apply for the driving license. So in this case, the second statement that is present in the else clause of the if-else statement will be printed, that Amita, you are not eligible to apply for the driving license. Okay, so you can choose these print statements according to you, but keep in mind that since you have also taken the name of the user as the input, it is better to display it and address the user while writing the program. Okay, now coming to the second question. The second question asks you to write a function to print the table of a given number, and the number whose table has to be printed will be entered by the user. So again, the first step would be to take the number as the input from the user, and definitely you will be converting it into the int data type. You can store it in any variable. I have stored it in the variable named num. Now when I have to print the table, I am writing a print statement, which is again optional, but for better readability I am displaying this print statement just before the table, that the table for the given value, the number entered by the user is, and then I am printing the table. Now to print the table, see, printing of a table requires the repetition of a same task, but in every line you have to change one particular value. So whenever you print a table, you have to write the number, the multiplication sign, then you have to use a particular value ranging from 1 to 10, then equal to sign, and then the multiplication of the number with that particular value. So you have to repeat this same task of printing this statement 10 times, and every time the value that will be changing, you can iterate over that range of values. So this can be easily done using a for loop. In this program, I have used the for loop with the loop iteration variable or named I, and I'm assigning the value of I in the range 1, 11. Now this is important. Why 11? Because we have learned in our video on loops, on for loop, that the last value taken up by the iterating variable or the loop variable is 1 less than the value that is specified here. So I will take the values 1 to 10, and this print statement would be executed 10 times as long as there are values that are still available to be displayed, or to that are still untraversed in this range. So now if I am, say I want to print the table of number 5, I enter the number is 5, so table for 5 is, and you can see these are the values of the variable 1, 2, 3 and so on till 10 are the values taken up by the variable I, which is the loop variable. Okay. So the next question asks you to write a program that prints the minimum and maximum of the 5 numbers that have been entered by the user. Okay. So what is the logic on which we will be writing this program? Initially, I'll be using two variables since I have to find the minimum as well as maximum of the 5 numbers that will be entered by the user. I will be using two variables named minimum and maximum. Now here I am assuming that the user would be inputting values which are positive numbers. That is why I have assigned both the variables to the initial value as 0. Okay. Now I have to take 5 numbers as input from the user. For this, you can either use 5 different input statements, but what would be more logical and easy to do is to write a loop statement, and then within the loop you run the loop 5 times and you take one number as the input, process that number, and then when the next iteration of the loop comes, you take the second number from the user as input, and so on. Okay. And what do I mean by process the number in each iteration? See, what I'll be doing is, initially I have taken two variables minimum and maximum. Every time the user enters a new number, I will be comparing it whether that number is less than the value that is already stored in minimum. If that is true, I will be assigning that number to minimum in that iteration. Okay. However, if this condition becomes false, only then I will be checking the second condition, that whether the value entered by the user is greater than the value maximum. If it is so, then I will be storing this new value into the variable maximum. Okay. And then I'll be going on to the next iteration if there are more numbers to be entered. Okay. Okay. So as I just told you, the two variables minimum and maximum are assigned the value 0. I have here used a for loop that will be running 5 times 0 to 5. Now since the last value is 5, the values that would be taken by the loop variable would be 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so what will happen in each iteration, the user will be asked to input a number. The input given by the user would be converted into an int data type and stored in the variable num. Okay, now if this is the first iteration, that means it is the first time we are taking the user input, or we are asking the user for the first number. In that case, the value of the loop variable I would be 0. So we will assign both minimum and maximum variables to the value that has been entered by the user. Why we are doing this? Because either the value that will be entered by the user will be minimum or maximum, or if it is not, over the course of time it will get replaced. And how will that get replaced? In further iterations, that means when I is not equal to 0, it is 1, 2, 3 and 4. We are taking the second to fifth numbers as the input. Then what we'll be doing? We'll be checking whether the value stored in minimum is greater than the number entered. That means the value of the number that has been given by the input is smaller than the value stored in the variable minimum. So we need to replace this value, because minimum should store the least of all the 5 numbers. Okay, so we have stored num in the variable minimum here. And now since it is an elif statement, we will not go into this case if we have already gone in the first elif statement. But if the first elif statement becomes false, that means if the number that we have entered is not smaller than minimum, but it can be the case that it can be greater than maximum. In that case, we have to replace the value maximum and we have to store the value entered by us in the variable maximum, and this will replace the or update the value of the variable maximum. And this is how at each step you will be checking whether the new number that is entered by the user, if it is smaller than the value we have already seen, then the value of minimum will get replaced, or if it is higher than the value that we have already seen, or the value that is stored in maximum variable, then the value maximum will get replaced. Okay, so here I am entering some random 5 values, and let's see. So what will happen in the first iteration, the number 1, the value 1 would be assigned to both the variables minimum and maximum. Then in the second iteration, what will happen? The number that we have entered is 2. It will be seen that the first if condition has become false. It will go to the elif statement and we'll check whether 2 is less than minimum. Minimum currently stores the value 1. So this has become false and we'll go to the next statement. Now the value 2 is greater than maximum. Maximum here stores, again it stores the value 1 which was stored in the first case. So yes, this statement is true and the value of maximum will be 2 now. Okay. Again when we enter the third number, the value of maximum would be updated to 6. In case of the fourth number, there will be no updation because 3 is not smaller than the value stored in the minimum variable, which is 1, and neither it is greater than the value of maximum, which is 6. Okay. Now in the last case, we'll see that again one updation happens to the variable maximum, and that is why it is updated to the value 8. Okay, and at the end, since you have to print what are the minimum and maximum values, we print these values here. Okay, coming to the next question. The next question asks you to write a program to check if the year that is entered by the user is a leap year or not. Now a leap year is a year which when divided by 4 should leave a remainder 0. Okay, so what you have to do is You have to take the user, you have to take the input from the user, which will be the year that you have to check. Then you have to calculate whether the remainder of dividing this year by 4 is 0 or not. You can do this by the modulo operator directly. It will give you the remainder and you check whether the remainder is 0, then you output that the year is a leap year. If the remainder is not 0, then you output that no, it is not a leap year. If it is 0, it is a leap year, else it is not. So when we execute this program, it is asking me for the year. So if I say 2000, see 2000 is a leap year because when I divide it by 4, I get 0 as remainder. Now if I enter 2001, then it is not a leap year. Okay.